The Midtown Fitness Center in Phoenix buzzed with the familiar energy of an after-work crowd. The clang of weights, the rhythmic squeak of sneakers on the rubberized floor, and faint thumps of background music created a chaotic symphony. Amidst this flurry of activity was Kendra, a 34-year-old black woman radiating focus and determination. Her movements were precise, her workout routine disciplined: deadlifts, burpees, and pull-ups. She kept to herself, her earbuds firmly in place, signaling she wasn't there for small talk. Today was no different. Dressed in simple black leggings and a tank top, Kendra adjusted the weights on the squat rack. Just as she prepared to begin, an unwelcome presence loomed beside her. A man in his mid-40s with broad shoulders and a smirk that set her instincts on edge. He exuded an air of arrogance that Kendra had encountered before, and she instinctively straightened her posture. "You're using that wrong," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. Kendra raised an eyebrow, calmly removing one earbud. "Excuse me," she replied evenly. "The weights," he gestured broadly. "You're not setting them upright. You could hurt yourself." Kendra offered a polite smile. "Thanks, but I've got it." But he didn't back off. Instead, he crossed his arms, planting himself firmly next to her like he owned the space. "I've been coming here for years," he added. "Let me show you the proper form." "No need," Kendra said, her tone firmer now as she put her earbud back in and turned to her barbell. The man's smirk faded into a scowl. He muttered something under his breath, inaudible but heavy with disdain. A few gym-goers glanced over, sensing the tension, but quickly turned away, convincing themselves it wasn't their business. As Kendra continued her workout with fluid precision, the man lingered, watching her every move with a mix of irritation and disbelief. Each time she switched exercises, he found a reason to follow, muttering critiques that she chose to ignore. Then it happened. When Kendra moved to the bench press and adjusted the weights, his voice rose, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "Women like you think they know everything, huh?" She froze mid-movement, her calm expression unwavering, but her sharp eyes blazing as she slowly turned to face him. "What exactly is that supposed to mean?" The room seemed to hush as the clatter of weights and faint music faded into the background. A few curious onlookers turned their heads, hesitating to intervene. The man shrugged, emboldened by the attention. "I'm just saying, maybe you should stick to what you're good at." Kendra didn't bite. Instead, she gave him a measured look before returning to her workout. But the air had shifted, charged with an invisible tension. The line had been drawn, and it was only a matter of time before it would be crossed. The tension in the gym reached a boiling point. The man took a step closer, invading Kendra's personal space. Despite the growing hostility in his tone and posture, Kendra remained unfazed. She straightened, her eyes locking onto his with a calmness that spoke volumes. Her silence wasn't defiance. It was controlled precision, a quiet strength that seemed to rattle him even more. "You've got a smart mouth, don't you?" he spat, his voice loud enough to echo off the walls. By now, the entire gym was on edge. Some employees behind the counter whispered among themselves, unsure if they should step in. A few gym-goers paused their workouts, caught between concern and the discomfort of witnessing an escalating confrontation. Kendra took a deep breath, exhaling slowly. Her tone was firm but devoid of anger. "You need to calm down." It wasn't a suggestion, it was a command. But her steady demeanor only seemed to ignite the man's fury further. His fists clenched at his sides, and in a moment of reckless aggression, he reached out and grabbed her arm roughly. Gasps rippled through the gym like a shockwave. For a split second, Kendra didn't move. Her body was eerily still, as if calculating the situation with precision honed from years of training. "What are you going to do about it?" he sneered, tightening his grip. And then, everything changed. Kendra moved with the speed and precision of someone who had mastered control over chaos. Her free hand shot up, gripping his wrist with an ironclad hold. With a swift, fluid motion, she twisted his arm, forcing him to release her. The sudden reversal of power left him stunned, his face contorted in shock and pain. Kendra stepped back, placing herself out of reach but fully in control. "Let me make one thing clear," she said, her voice sharp and commanding. You don't put your hands on me, ever. The man stumbled back, clutching his wrist as his bravado crumbled. For a moment, the gym fell into an uneasy silence. But instead of backing down, the man let out a roar of frustration and lunged at her. This time, Kendra didn't hold back. She sidestepped his clumsy attack with ease, using his momentum against him. In one seamless motion, she swept his legs out from under him, sending him crashing to the mat with a loud thud. Chaos erupted in the gym. Some people shouted, others scrambled to get out of the way, and a few whipped out their phones to record the scene. The man lay sprawled on the mat, groaning in humiliation as Kendra stood over him, her stance solid and unwavering. You really don't know when to quit, do you? She said, her voice low enough that only he could hear. For a moment, he seemed to consider getting back up, but the look in her eyes stopped him cold. She wasn't just confident, she was trained, dangerous. The realization hit him too late, and the fear in his eyes said everything. The man scrambled to his feet, his face a mixture of anger and humiliation. You're crazy, he shouted, pointing at her like a cornered animal. Enough, Kendra cut him off, her tone slicing through his words like a knife. You've embarrassed yourself enough for one day. Leave. Finally, a gym employee stepped forward, her voice trembling as she addressed the man. Sir, you need to go. Now. The man glanced around, his jaw tight as he saw the disgust and anger in the eyes of those around him. His shoulders slumped in defeat, and he grabbed his bag from a nearby bench. With one last bitter glare, he stormed out, shoving the glass door open so hard it rattled behind him. As the door closed, the gym collectively exhaled. Someone began clapping, and soon, a ripple of applause filled the room. It's over, Kendra said simply, raising a hand to quiet the crowd. The gym-goers began to disperse, though whispers lingered. Kendra stood tall, her breathing steady as she scanned the room. Her body language was calm but commanding, as if daring anyone else to challenge her. The gym began to settle as people returned to their workouts, though the charged atmosphere lingered. Whispers filled the air as everyone grappled with what they had just witnessed. Some replayed the scene in their minds, others questioned their own reactions. Why hadn't they stepped in? What would they have done differently? Kendra walked calmly to the locker room, her movements steady and composed. Inside, she placed her gym bag on the bench and caught her reflection in the mirror. A calm, focused face stared back at her. There was no hint of triumph, no trace of gloating. This wasn't about showing off, it was about sending a message. Respect is not optional. As she zipped her bag, the locker room door creaked open. Tara, the young woman from the front desk, hesitated in the doorway, fidgeting nervously with the hem of her shirt. Can I ask you something? Tara finally said, her voice soft. Kendra turned, her gaze steady but kind. Sure. Tara hesitated, then blurted out, How did you stay so calm? He was so aggressive, and you just handled it. How? Kendra leaned against the bench, folding her arms. It's not about staying calm, she explained. It's about knowing you can handle yourself. Fear loses its grip when you're prepared. Tara tilted her head, curiosity lighting up her expression. So you're trained? Like, military or something? Kendra gave a small nod. I served as a Navy SEAL for over a decade. I've faced far worse situations than what happened out there. Tara's eyes widened. Wow, that explains a lot. Kendra offered a faint smile. But it's not just about training. It's about understanding when to act and when to let things go. People like him. They're insecure. They look for easy targets. Show them you're not one, and they don't know what to do. Tara nodded slowly, absorbing the weight of Kendra's words. I wish I could be that brave. You can, Kendra said simply. Bravery isn't about not being scared. It's about standing firm when it matters. Before Tara could respond, the locker room door opened again. A middle-aged woman who had checked on Kendra earlier peeked inside. Sorry to interrupt, she said softly, but I just wanted to say thank you. You handled that with so much grace. Honestly, it made me think about how often I let people walk all over me. Kendra gave her a small, encouraging smile. Standing up for yourself isn't always easy, but it's necessary. Not just for you, but for everyone watching. The woman nodded thoughtfully. You're right. I think I needed to see that. Kendra slung her gym bag over her shoulder. We all need reminders sometimes. As she stepped out of the locker room and into the cool evening air, Kendra felt a quiet sense of resolve. She hadn't planned for any of this to happen, but maybe it was meant to. Maybe someone in that gym needed to see what true strength looked like. Not in physical power, but in composure, resilience, and the refusal to let ignorance win. Back inside, the gym buzzed with conversations. Some replayed the incident, others scrolled through their phones, watching the video someone had uploaded. Comments flooded in. She handled it like a pro. This is what strength looks like. Why did no one step in sooner? At home, Kendra sipped tea as her dog curled up at her feet. Her phone buzzed with messages from gym members thanking her and praising her courage. She appreciated the sentiment, but didn't see herself as a hero. For her, it wasn't about the spotlight. It was about standing firm in the face of disrespect, no matter how small or large the stage. The following week, she returned to the gym, unassuming as ever. But this time, people greeted her differently, with nods of respect and warm smiles. Tara approached her shyly, handing her a card. Just wanted to say thanks, she said. You've inspired me. At home, Kendra opened the card. Inside was a simple message. You reminded me that strength comes in many forms. Thank you for showing me what it means to truly stand tall. It wasn't just Tara who had learned something that day. Everyone in the gym, whether they had witnessed the confrontation or heard about it later, walked away with a lesson. Respect is earned, not given lightly. Strength isn't about size or bravado. It's about resolve and courage. As Kendra reflected on the incident, one thought stood out. Maybe the world didn't need more heroes. Maybe it just needed more people willing to stand their ground and demand the respect they deserved.